people buy from those they know, like, and trust. You probably have heard this line out there a lot. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. And it's really pretty straightforward to help getting people to know, like, and trust you. But that is a process, right? And there's things you want to do. I just had a meeting this morning with a potential customer who already knew, liked, and trusted me from the activity I do, right? So I'm out here sharing this information. I'm doing training. And while I was in there, we had that conversation about, oh, you already know, like, and trust me. Now we're deciding whether we're a good fit to work together. And I said, this is what I try to teach people like you, is that you should be putting your expertise, your 𝗧𝗎 information out there so that federal buyers can know, like, and trust you through the content you share. It shouldn't be that hard, right? It doesn't have to be a heavy lift. It could be 15 minutes a day, or you spend 1 hour a week and you prepare, some daily activity, whatever it is. Putting that information out there will help people know you and then begin to know, like, and trust you. And when you keep this in mind, relationship building will be so much easier because now you're kind of warming people up. I had a call yesterday where the people I was talking to was really an honor to hear this. It was very humbling. But they were like, oh, I was trying to sell them something. It was something totally different, but I was trying to sell them something. And they were like, oh, we're big fans. And I really appreciated that. You too can do this kind of stuff. It doesn't have to take a ton of energy, but you can have federal buyers come to you after a year of you never knowing they've been following you and engaging, right? And so as small businesses, we're constantly told that these relationships are vital. Success in the federal market is dependent on you having relationships, right? It's important for you to have relationships. And that's cool. Great, we say, right? But how do we build relationships? Who do we build relationships with, et cetera? And that's what I want to teach you today, right? Is a little bit of the process of building relationships. So, and that's what we're going to cover now, right? Building relationships with federal buyers. So today's training, I'm going to break it up into 3 components. The first thing I want to talk about is how to find federal buyers to meet. We call this targeting, and the 7-step process that you can see here, right? The path to relationships begins with research a little bit about the agency or the company that you're trying to go after. And then targeting is building this list of people you want to reach out to. And then outreach is scheduling that first meeting and having a couple of first meetings there. And that leads you into relationships. When you have relationships, you're on what I call the wheel of success. You will hear about opportunities that you can write proposals to so that you start winning contracts, right? And when you do that, you're on that wheel of success and you're never coming off because your customers and your teammates will be so happy to work with you. But it begins with getting those relationships, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So I wanted to talk about how you can find these federal buyers. And then I'm going to talk about just a couple of suggestions for how you can ask for a meeting. It's a very straightforward process that I teach in our workshops, and I'm just going to teach you right here. And the last thing is I wanted to give you, I think it's 9-step evolution of a relationship. And this isn't the life of a relationship, but this is the evolution of a relationship, let's say, to get on the wheel, right? And that's where we're going to go. If you don't know who I am, my name is 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results, and that's what I want for you. You can have repeatable, predictable results of relationship building, and that's what we're touching on today in the next 23 minutes. If you haven't done so already, join our Government Contracting Success newsletter. It's the largest government contracting newsletter on LinkedIn, and we grow constantly because we provide very valuable information. So go check that out. Make sure you subscribe. Okay, so let's talk about how to find federal buyers to meet. These 7 steps, really, those bullets are more for me in case anything goes wrong with what I was going to show you. I wanted to make sure it's easier. Today, I'm going to kind of show you it looking done and a little too crisp and perfect. If you really want to know what the sausage making, the donut making is like, go watch my training yesterday. If you weren't here live yesterday, I was going into USA Spending. It was going to be boom, bada boom, bada boom, and nothing worked the way it was supposed to. But that happens, right? And I was okay with that because I knew what I wanted works. In fact, after the training, I went and put 68 contract vehicles for 8 days into a newsletter article as a way to just follow up on that training. Today, though, I'm not going to show you how hard it is to do the USA Spending stuff. I'm just going to go in and show you the finished product. there are a lot of ways you can find federal buyers. I have done 50 plus trainings minimum in the last 2 years on how to find buyers and teammates to build relationships. I mean, it could be close to 100 trainings. I've done over almost 500 in the last 2 years, federal sales trainings like this. And so there's a lot of different ways you can find federal buyers. Today, I'm just going to show you one. And the way I'm going to show you is you find a winner. And so here I say, find a win you like. What I mean is find a contract you like. I'm going to show you real work, right? I'm doing the training with you, but at the same time, I'm working on behalf of my customer, one of my customers who I know wants to get into the Army, and I know their core competency is administrative support services. And so I'm going to show you about how I pick one winner to go in. And actually, the cool thing for them is me doing the training for you. I found a whole bunch that we can explore together. But I'm going to show you that I found a winner. Now I want to chase that thread all the way down to the bottom, or chase that all the way to the end. And so we'll talk about that. But the end is finding points of contacts as it relates to relationships, right? So I want to find people in the agency and people, perhaps even the winners who have that contract that I want to go after. So let me share that, and we're going to go through these 7 steps, and I'll walk you through and talk about what I did over there. So if I come here, this is USA Spending. I'm going to move very, very fast. Gus and Cecilia sometimes tell me I put too much information in, but just slow it down and watch it 3 or 4 times and you'll get it. But I want to move fast so that you can see what I do when I support my workshop customers, right? So the first thing I did is went to USA Spending and I created a search. Basically, I just turned on some filters and I said, I want to look 5 years ago. Basically, what I'm trying to find is contracts that were 5-year-long contracts that are ending in the next 1 to 12 months type thing. So I just said, find me contracts that that started, and here's an interesting tip on USA Spending if you haven't done this, started in FY 2020, but only show me new contract awards. Because when you go into USA Spending or FPDS, they'll show you every transaction. And for here, I was just trying to say, show me new awards. Okay, so FY 2020, that's why I'm back there, is because I'm looking for things expiring now. The second thing I said, show me just Army. And the last thing I said was, show me this NAICS code 541611, which is basically administrative support services. When I did that search, I got this result, right? 302 opportunities that were new awards back then. It looks like there was even contract vehicles, but I don't care. So then I said, let me zoom out in a teeny bit. Then I said, let me come in and start looking at some of these contracts. Of course, we all want to click the $176 million one, but I'm like, all right, let me behave. And I came down and I said, well, let me look at this $13 million one, because that one is probably a $2 to $3 million a year opportunity that I'm sure my customer can do. Right? That's a good sweet spot for what they're trying to do. We talk about between $10 and $20 million total contract value over a 5-year period of performance. They can easily deliver on that. So I clicked on that to explore it, and it took me to the next page. So I looked and I found a bunch of winners. Now I'm exploring an opportunity, and I come in, I can see this information that's in here. And so one of the things, let me just go back and forth so I follow it. I picked a winner. Now I'm going to search on the funding office. This was the next thing I wanted to do. So there's a lot to show you here, but I want to keep it focused in my time. I come all the way to the bottom, and what I'm looking for, let me close this guy for 1 second. I'm looking for agency details because I want to build federal relationships. Remember, that's the point of what I'm doing here today. I want to build federal relationships with an agency that is buying those administrative support services. So I came down here and I saw funding office, right? And the funding office, and I'll tell you candidly, I didn't know what that was. When I first looked at it, I'm like, what is that? I can't remember. And the problem is there's too many of them. I actually know what it is. Once I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah. But anyways, it doesn't matter. I just grabbed this information right here. So I highlighted this line and I went to my best employee, which is Google. And I said, hey, Google, tell me something. And so I put this in. And the cool thing for me is it came up with all this stuff and I began to look at it. And I started figuring it out. And this is where I came in and I said, oh, yeah. It's the Army Communications and Electronics Command. So now I know who it is. And now I can pursue some results. And so here, I'm going to take you off a couple seconds and I'm going to show you how I just went down this thread to start finding some people. I'm not going to show you a ton of people, but I'm going to show you quickly how I did it. So I went from Seecom here over to here, Army Seecom. And so, and I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it. This is the fun part about acronyms. I'm assuming it's not CECOM or something, but they should be here and tell us. Okay, so here I came in though, and I'm able to explore this. I'm able to look at different things. This is one of the things, if you don't know this, this is not really the best website. And later I could show you the best website, but in here, this is kind of like their standard website that sits on Army, but there's probably a Seecom website that is more specific. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyways, I can pop in here. Here you go. See, like I can see Seecom. If I click on that, that'll give me the home page. And I'll come back to that page in a second. But so this is what I'm doing, right? I'm coming in here. I'm seeing some of the senior leadership. There's no LinkedIn for Seecom. This one down here at the bottom, LinkedIn, that's the Army one. But so Seecom doesn't have it. But turns out they actually do. Let me just bounce around a little bit. If I come in here, I searched for Army Seecom, right? Ironically, I first searched for Army Communications Electronic Command. I couldn't find anything. So then I was like, all right, let me search the acronym, and the acronym came up instantly. And so here you can see I'm able to come in, and if I'm trying to find people to build a relationship with, I can click on this, and I see 324 people here, and I can begin to figure out which ones do I want to reach out to. This is not find them, call them today, right? This is a couple of weeks. I want to get millions out of Seecom. I'm not going to just go to them right away. But look at this, Andrea Armstrong, right? There's a Seecom small business person. Definitely going to be one of my first calls, right? I can keep looking through here and finding people. If there's certain type of work I did, I might do something there. Or I could type in, maybe I want to do contract. Let me just type contract, searching within that group. I'm looking down and I'm seeing some of these people. One of the reasons I don't see contract officers, things like that, is because, and I'll show you in a minute, but because they don't buy. Their contracting shop is the Army Contracting Command, which I'll show you how I know that in a second. But anyway, so here you can see I'm finding people. Here's another small business person who I didn't see the first time. I mean, actually, I could change this. Let's just try small and see what happens. There's 18 results. So there's a small business, small business. Some of these guys are probably like small business or small weapons things or something. But anyways, you can see what's happening. I can find people in LinkedIn, and that's great. Let me come back here. So we looked at that. Then we opened up their page. And this is where I can start learning a lot more about them. This is Seecom. I want to get in. I can see their leadership. I can see their commands. And I've got to watch my time so I can get you some other stuff. But you can see how I'm finding a ton of stuff. Here's that Office of Small Business programs, right? So if I go in there, I could probably find a lot of information. One other thing I'll show you is like I searched for, and this is one of my favorite searches. Let me show you. But I searched for something like Communications Electronic Command, and I say, show me file type :PDF. And the reason I do is because what I'm really looking for is like industry days or something. And what I found a lot of stuff, but one I like that I just decided to share with you is understanding the higher level structure, right? So here, the Army Material Command sits at the top, and then coming down right in the middle, I can see the Army Communications Electronic Command, so Seecom. I can see their structure. It's already given me ideas of what's in there and how I might be able to support, and I can come back here and do stuff. Okay, so let me come back to, that was all one thing, right? Just sticking with this. That was from the funding office, right? The next thing is I was looking for a KO, the contracting officer. Excuse me, before I go, I'm not going to show you this part, but right here, it says awarding office. Just because I know the Army, because I took the time to research them, learn how they buy, et cetera, which you can do as well. I know that this is Army Contracting Command, Aberdeen Proving Ground. And what I also know, because I've worked with my customers getting into the Army, is that inside there is a branch chief or division chief for Contracting Command at Aberdeen who's responsible for Seecom. And so that would be one of the people I put on our list to reach out to. But what I did do is I wanted to learn more about who the contracting officer is. And so I grabbed this PID number. I don't know if that's how you say the acronym, but this PID number, this is basically just the ID number for the opportunity. I grabbed it. I headed over here to FPDS. I hit it in, and I was able to come in here, and I'm able to look at some of this. It's a little harder because I can see here that like that's somebody's name sometimes, but maybe not. But what I found is that, all right, I'm going to have to dig into this a little bit more and figure it out. But one other thing I did on finding people, I just want to say this is right here, I'm able to find the company that won this, the incumbent, right? And I can also learn this over here. If I wanted to click on recipient details, I can find their information as well. But what I did is I came over to USA Spend or DSBS and put the information in, pulled up their profile. And when I did, I'm able to see that this company, their 8A certification expired. That means they're not going to be able to go after this. And this, by the way, is an 8A set aside. And so I'm looking at that. What I'm going to advise my customer to do is go in and talk to these guys, see if we can team together and go after it. They can sub, these guys can prime, blah, 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 right? But I was able to do that, and I'm able to find the person to call right here at the top, right there, Michael, right? So I can reach out and call Michael. And then there's a lot more information. One of the things I put on the slide was I followed them through on USA Spending, and I see that in the last 12 months, they did 147 million. I'm like, this is even better of a company because my customer is not that size, right? They're smaller and they would like to be at that size. So this might be a good relationship to try to go off and build. Okay, so that was a lot. Let me come all the way back here. That was a lot to show you how to find federal buyers to meet. Go back and watch that portion again when we're when we're done. Okay, so let's talk about how to ask for a meeting with those federal buyers. We're finding all those people we might get off of LinkedIn, et cetera. I just want to give you some guidance on this slide really fast. First thing is, when you're reaching out to schedule a meeting, don't try to talk or sell your company when you're reaching out, when you're picking up the phone or when you're sending an email. Don't try to say all these things. Don't feature. If I have an iPhone, I tell you how you can communicate with your mom in real time instead of having to go there, right? I don't tell you that it's got a microphone and glass case or something else. Those are all the features of the phone. Who cares? What does it do? Right? A hammer drives a nail in. A drill creates holes. I don't talk about the bit. I talk about the hole. Well, when you're calling somebody and you're saying, hey, we do all this stuff and there's all that blah, 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 what you're doing is describing the drill, not the hole. And so what I'm saying is when you reach out to ask for a meeting, just ask for it. Just say, hey, do you have time? 15 minutes for an intro call. I've done a lot of training where you can get email templates where I show you. But basically, you want to think of your emails like Twitter tweets. That's the right way to say it. Or X's. You want them to be very, very short. Every paragraph should be 150 characters or less. Basically, it means don't let it wrap around. And then the second tip I have here is call first, then email 2 hours later. Can you get some people who will respond to an email? Sure, right? But if you call and leave a voicemail, they will listen to it, especially federal buyers, right? You might not listen to voicemails. I get like one. I mean, if it's spam, I know if it's spam, but I get one a week at most, right? It's so infrequent. And the federal buyers, if you leave a voicemail, they hear you, they begin to hear your voice and you're asked. And then I'm saying a couple hours later, follow up because you're touching them like a marketing or outreach engagement is called a touch. You're touching them and then touching them again with an email. These engagements begin to sink in. You begin to become memorable. You're never a pest. You're always professional and really concise, but you're doing this pattern. The last thing is just reminding you, only ask for one thing, that meeting. When you have an email, don't talk about a lot of stuff. I sometimes say, you could say, hey, we've been working with the Navy. We were interested in supporting the Army. Would you be open to a meeting next Tuesday or Thursday at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. kind of thing? You're just asking for the meeting. If you ask for other things, like you ask about an opportunity or something in there, then nothing gets done because you made it too hard for them to respond quickly to you. But if you make it easy for them to read the email and respond yes or no kind of thing, then you increase the chances they're going to get back to you. Last thing I wanted you to remember on this slide is that it's getting meetings, sales, it's a numbers game. And so imagine you're calling 100 people because literally that's how many people you have to call minimum to get traction, right? And you should be willing to call 1,000 people to grow your company to 5, 10, or $100 million, right? So you should be willing to make the calls. But what I wanted to point out with this bell curve is that you see on the right-hand side, it says late majority and laggards. That adds up to 50% between the two of them. That means those 50% are not going to talk to you at all. So 50% of the people you call are not going to answer the phone, if you or not going to meet with you, if you only call 50 people, the chances are you called the last half of the bell curve, and you need to call another 50 people to get the first half of the bell curve. The coming over to early majority, it's 34%. Those people generally won't meet with you unless they got an introduction of some sort, some warm intro. It could be as simple as I was talking with Molly and she said, you're the one I should call. Okay. Or it could be Molly calls John and says, hey, I want you to meet with this person. But only 16 out of 100 people, when you reach out to them, will say, yeah, let's talk. So remember, it's a numbers game. You just have to increase your activity if you want to have success at whatever levels you measure. Hey, really quickly, I just want to tell you something exciting for us. I'm launching a web-based solution to help small businesses under 10 million get to 10 million. So join that wait list at govconinAbox.com so you can hear about when we launch. We're going to solve the 3 biggest problems small businesses have that I have seen over helping tens of thousands of small businesses. The first one is getting in the door to meet with federal buyers like we're talking about, finding teammates who want to work with you, and then identifying, pursuing, and responding to opportunities you can win. I'm really excited about this. Love to have you on the wait list. Put govconinAbox.com in the website and join the wait list. If you're already on the wait list, just put GovCon in a box rocks so I know. All right, let's talk about the evolution of a relationship in the last 5 minutes here. And these are, think about these as marketing touch points, marketing engagements, but building a relationship, it literally is a process, right? And if you treat it like a process and you have little sticky notes and you say, I did this, then I did this, then I did this, you will get that relationship you want. But if you don't line up, what does it take to get a relationship, then you won't have the results you're looking for. And we're all used to doing that in our personal life where we say, hey, I want to make a great meal. That's the relationship. In order to make a great meal, I need the ingredients and I need to cook it a certain way. That's all I'm doing is giving you the ingredients to a great relationship. So one of the key things to keep in mind is, why do you want a relationship? When you know that, you'll be able to do a lot of the things I'm talking about. So step 1 is what we talked about already. Reach out to somebody. This cold outreach that you do, or warm outreach if you've got a reference. But just pick up the phone and call them or send an email, try to get it going. That's number 1. Number 2, schedule a meeting. Number 3, after you schedule a meeting and before the meeting happens, you can do a couple of pre-meeting touch points. This could be 1, 2, or 3 different times that you're touching base with them. For example, one thing after you schedule a meeting, you separately can then send a thank you. Hey, I just want to say thanks. I'm looking forward to talking to you. A little later, you can sit there and say, hey, I just want to make sure I'm prepared for the meeting. If there was one, if there was one thing that you would like to get out of this meeting, what is that? That's a little aggressive, actually, but you could say, hey, I'm looking at this website. Is that the only place for me to research before I come in? Even if they just come back and say, yeah, that's perfect, that's enough. You're on their radar. You're constantly on their radar. Number 4, when you're in the meeting, have a great meeting, a successful meeting, but then ask for more meetings. Ask for the next meeting. Do you mind if I follow up in a couple of weeks after I do some of these things we talked about? Sure, go ahead and do that. So number 5, 6, and 7 are what you do after a meeting, right? These are meeting follow-ups. So number 5, the first thing you do after a meeting, a couple hours after the meeting, you send a thank you. And then in that thank you, you say, I'll follow up with meeting minutes. The next day, follow up with meeting minutes, like in the first thing in the morning. You could even write it today and send it tomorrow, but you follow up with meeting minutes. Hey, John, it was great meeting with you. Here's some of the things we talked about, some of the action items I took away. Thanks again. Right? So that's the second follow-up. And then the third follow-up is you have action items. In a good meeting, you will have action items on purpose. You will make sure you get them, get the other person to tell you something to do. And so you'll have these action items. You can follow back up. You told me to download the strategic plan. I did. We're reading it. Thanks a lot. I'll get back to you. Whatever, right? Number 8 is LinkedIn connection. Make sure you reach out. While you're in the meeting, you can say, hey, do you mind if I connect on LinkedIn? And then the next day or 2, you could reach out and connect on LinkedIn. And then the last thing here is number 9, and this goes back to why do you want a relationship, is determine 3 to 5 more follow-ups that you're going to have. You're trying to convert this person from a meeting to a person I know, a relationship to a strategic relationship, one that can prove valuable for both you and the other person. And so some examples that I have here of follow-on meetings or follow-on touch points where you just send an email or you call, but you can ask for a document. I was looking at the budget, but I couldn't find this. Can you help me find that? intros, right? It was great talking with you. I'm trying to meet, right? Seecom I was looking at, right? Can you introduce me to this person over here in this office? You know, sure. Yes or no. It doesn't even really matter. As long as they come back and say, oh, I don't really know that person, that's still okay. You're building that relationship. You could ask for a follow-on meeting for a specific reason. You could talk about an opportunity. You could talk about something that's in the strategic plan that you want to pull some thread on. Or you could talk about events like, hey, I'm just trying to check in with you. What events do you go to where you're engaging with industry or you're learning from industry? That's a kind of a follow-up that you can get. You're soliciting feedback from them. All of these things are designed to take you from the initial meetings that you're having to a strategic relationship that's out there. It's what I put evolution of a BFF. All right, so here's the 3 things I want you to remember as you go away. 3 steps you can take, right? The first thing is choose one agency like I did the Army. Then look in there and find the wins that you like and pick one. And then follow that thread all the way through by finding points of contact at the incumbent as well as the government. And in the government, the contracting shop, the program shop, and the small business shop. When you do that, you'll be able to build strategic relationships within a particular program office, et cetera. Hopefully you found it valuable. If you did, throw thanks into the chat for me and my team. If you're interested in working with me on our acceleration workshop, you can reach out on GovCon.chamber.com. For all of us, just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.